Greetings and welcome back to Old Ways Rising Farm YouTube channel, where I am sitting in one of my absolute favorite trees here in the Appalachian Mountains, the Serviceberry. The common species around here is the downy Serviceberry, Amelanchier arborea, and it's one of about scale of 24 or so species of Amelanchier that grow worldwide. I'm saying or so because this genus is a taxonomist nightmare because they hybridize with each other like crazy, and there's a lot of arguments over which hybrids are species, which species are hybrids, and which species are the same species. So we're just going to go with scale of 24. That's good enough for now. Wherever you live, there's probably one of these that can grow in your climate. This goes all the way down, not this species, but this genus grows all the way down into Texas and all the way up into like Zone 2 Alaska. Okay? So pretty much no matter where you live, there's one of these that can grow. The common name, Serviceberry, is probably the most common name. Saskatoon in Canada is a common name. And a third that used to be common here in the Appalachians is shadbush. This is the first of the native rose family fruit trees to bloom. And the bloom period coincides with the shad runs. And before the building of a bunch of hydroelectric dams on basically every river in the Appalachians, the shad were the salmon of the mid-Atlantic region. It cannot be overstated how important the shad fisheries were to Native American and early European communities. They're pretty much gone now, so is the common name shad bush. But it's still part of this plant's history. And boy, is it a beautiful plant. It's one that you ought to consider just for the beauty of these early spring flowers. Right? They come out right with the crocuses and the very first daffodils. So it's a stunner just on that front.
It smells nice too.
It smells nice. But there's a lot more to it. It is in the rose family. It is fairly closely related to apples and pears. And the fruit has the same structure as apples and pears. It's called a pome. Now, it's a very small pome, especially the downy Serviceberry. The berry is in the name because it's a very small fruit, so it just kind of got called a berry, even though it's not a true berry. But I have seen these with the ground underneath them absolutely carpeted with these little fruits. And it's a really good wildlife species. So the fruits come out in early to midsummer, depending on which variety or species you're looking at. And it's a time of year when there aren't a whole lot of fruits like that on the landscape. So it's really, really great for birds and wildlife. Now, I am going to take some air layerings from some of the wild serviceberries around to put in my chicken coop this year. For exactly that reason. Because it's so good for birds. The little fruits on these aren't commonly collected in modern time, but historically were a very important foodstuff for winter, dried down and mixed with meat and fat to make pemmican type materials. Okay? So it is very, very edible, even though it's small and not commonly collected today. But there is a growing movement to work with some of these native and less common fruits, and there are quite a few people that are working on, cruising the landscape, ranging around, finding various individual trees of particular merit, and developing grafted clones of larger fruited varieties. And since we have scale of 24 varieties and hybrids to work with, I am quite confident that we will get some really good, really useful kitchen varieties of this plant soon. There already are some that have fruits. I think it's the saskatoon of the Pacific Northwest, Olnifolia, that has the largest fruit. And there already are some selections of those that are in the same size range as smaller crab apples. Okay? So this is an up-and-coming kitchen fruit tree. And then lastly, and something that's absolutely worth considering, This is one of the hardest hardwoods here in the eastern forest. Its general character is a lot like pearwood, if you're familiar with that at all, but it's a lot harder than pearwood. This tree is even harder than black locust and some hickories, okay? Though it's not quite as hard as Osage orange, right? That still beats it. But it's in that category of super hard, super durable hardwoods. I have worked this wood before in small pieces for little crafting projects. I made a little boomerang, non-returning boomerang out of a piece of it once. And it's so silky smooth and so hard, it's almost like you're pulling a draw knife through a brick of like really hard like Lego plastic or wax. It's a very homogeneous material and it doesn't behave the same way a lot of other woods do. And I absolutely think it has a place for, tool handles and making wooden planes and things like that where you need a really, really durable, tough, smooth wood. It absolutely has a place there. So it's a really gorgeous stunner of a plant and one that I hope you will consider for your homesteads. We certainly are going to be propagating and planting some of this too at Old Ways Rising Farm.
I mean, just look at this. What a stunner is that tree.